before was talking about possessing your better and asked the question, are you better yet? From Deuteronomy chapter 1, go back to Deuteronomy, read two sets of scriptures different from what I read before. Deuteronomy 1 was the same, and then one out of the book of Philippians as a basis for talking about for us moving forward. And I also believe, let me say, I do think I'm seeing better. I think when I say seeing better, I'm seeing, I'm witnessing, I'm zeroing in on, I'm trying to behold, and I'm looking at and taking inventory from CGC of better occurring in the lives of our people, in the lives, and it's manifesting itself in many different ways through many different avenues. But I do believe in that God is letting us see incremental improvements, better in various ways and various areas. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 6, the Lord our God spake unto us in Horeb, saying, ye have dwelt long enough in this mount. Turn you and take your journey and go to the mount of the Amorites and unto all the places near thereunto, in the plain, in the hills, in the valley, in the vale, and in the south, and by the seaside, and the land, by the land of Canaanites, of the Canaanites, and unto Lebanon, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. That scripture, and also turn to the third chapter again, that scripture that you have dwelt long enough in this place, and go to Philippians chapter 3 as a basis. Is going to talk about still moving forward and progressing and moving from the state from the state of complacency, the state of a comfort zone, and moving forward to greater things. The third chapter of the book of Philippians, and want to read beginning with let's see what verse I want. Philippians chapter 3. Paul says with verse number 7, Philippians chapter 3, verse 7. But what things were gain to me, those things I counted loss for Christ. The things that were gained, beneficial, prior to that verse, Paul kind of gives his resume about his lineage, his journey, his spiritual, his physical and biological heritage, about being a Benjaminite, being circumcised of the stock of Israel, and coming from the Hebrew, being a Hebrew from the tribe of Benjamin. He talks about, brags about who he was and who he is. But he said, all those things that I was, I count them as loss. I count them as loss. And I count them as loss, not just because I'm trying to lose, but I made an exchange of those things that I thought were substantial, that I thought were beneficial, that I thought were things that I could brag about. I count all those accomplishments lost for Christ. I count them lost because of Christ. I count them as lost for Christ. All right. Verse 8, yea, doubtless I count all things but lost for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ. I count it as loss for the excellency. I'm striving for better. Excellency is a higher dimension. Those things were good. Those things were profitable. Those things were beneficial. But I'm for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus. I want a complete knowledge of him. I want a better knowledge of him. I want a more mature knowledge of him. I want a higher knowledge of him. I want to know him again, and Paul is going to get into that. But he said, but I got to exchange some things if I'm going to strive and reach for the excellency, the higher dimension, the higher level of knowledge of knowing Jesus Christ. You can't keep functioning on a rudimentary, basic level. You can't keep learning the first principles, would be the first principles, the oracles of God, and expected to learn God in his deepness, in his depth, in his exploits. Those that would do exploits must go into the deep waters. All right. And so Paul said that the things that I thought materialistically and naturally were gain, I'm going to equate them to be loss that I may excel, that I may go to the excellence of the knowledge of Christ. Verse 8, doubtless I count all things with loss, my Christ my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things. Paul said, I've suffered for Christ's sake. I've suffered the loss of all things, and I do count those things which I suffered loss of, but dung. I count them as dung. I count it as nothing. I count them as empty. I count them as vain. And the reason why I can count them as vain, and this is an attitude, you all, this is what he chose to think, how he chose to look at it. This is perspective. This is what he chose to view it as. I count them as dung, as loss. Why? That I may win Christ. That I may win Christ. We talked Sunday night, the choir song, we win. We will fight, we will win. That I may win Christ. So I count him as lost. You have to give up some things. As you get better, you all, as you move towards better, better, you all, again, being a little redundant, means change. Better means change. Better means mobility. Better means, it means movement. You can't stay the same and get better. If you go, better means it's dynamic. It's not static, standstill, but it's dynamic, meaning it has some fluid. It's fluid, and meaning that it must be some transference, some transforming, some evolving of, some progressing to, some movement, some evolving, some activity. You can't do nothing and get better. In fact, if you do nothing, you lose ground. You do nothing. If you stand still and mock time, not only are you just standing in one place, but you are losing ground because everybody else is moving forward. And so your standing still is costing you not only not to move forward, but it's causing you to be put further, or a distance to be put in between you and persons that are winning or in front of you, because they're not standing still, they're moving. So Paul said, that I may win Christ, verse 9, and be found in him, in Christ, listen, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that righteousness which comes through faith of Christ, the righteousness which is of God by faith, that I may know him. Verse 10, I count it as lost because the pursuit I'm on and what I'm trying to get better, my better is I want to know him. There's a scripture, I believe it's in Psalms, that says Israel knew God's works or deeds, but Moses knew God's ways. You can know God's works and know God, what God does. You know God by his deeds. You know God by what he does. But here's a limitation of that. If God does not move, or if God is not active, or if God does not manifest or demonstrate, or if God does not produce at any given time, knowing God by his works only, all right, can stunt you from knowing God in his fullness. Because Israel knew God by what he did for them. They knew God by his works. Open up the Red Sea. They knew him by sending manna. They knew him by letting their feet, going 40 years in the wilderness and their sandals or shoes not even wearing out. They knew him by, again, the serpent that bit, holding up the brazen serpent that they was healed by. They knew God by his works. But Moses knew God by his ways. He knew him by his ways. Israel knew him by his works, but Moses knew God by his ways. Now, what's the difference? Knowing God by his works means that God is made known, manifested. You enter into a place and a mindset of where God is based on what God does for you, and based on God's works and what God demonstrates and what God produces. But knowing God by his ways, all right, because of his ways, is a deeper relationship with God, because in that situation, God's ways are beyond even his works. A person's ways are beyond their works. It's beyond their works, because when you know a person's ways, you don't have to wait for the manifestation to see if they're going to do something else. You know their nature. You know what their ability to do. You know their ways. You know their ways. Not just the works, but you know their ways. And so Moses. So I just quoted Psalms 103. Read Psalms 103:7. I'm gonna come back. Stay to Philippians. I'll come back. But Psalms 103. Somebody get Psalms 103 and verse 7. That I just quoted that in a paraphrase way. But no. He made known his ways unto Moses. But his acts or actions or deeds, he made known them to the children of Israel. Knowing God's actions is one level of knowing God. But he didn't just show his actions to Moses. God said, Moses, come here. I want you to understand who I am. Know my ways. And you can be serving God and you can get to know God on one surface level because of what God does for you. But you're going to have to come to know God beyond what he does for you. You're going to have to know God on the level of who he is. Did y'all get that? And knowing him on the level of who he is, that's knowing his ways. If he don't do something for me, I know what he can do. If he don't move on this in this behalf, I know he can. If he don't show himself on this level, I know he's capable. Because I don't just know him by his acts. I know him by his ways. I know him by his ways, his nature. I know him by his nature. When you're in a relationship with somebody and somebody tell you, so-and-so said something and this was, you say, well, who you say said that? That don't sound like him. You're not judging what he said. You're saying, I think I know that person well enough that's an oddity. That's outside of that person's nature. That's not usually how they talk. That's not what they display in their attitude. I wasn't there. I didn't hear him say it, but it raises a question mark because I really thought I knew his ways or her ways more. To be able to make a judgment, that just didn't sound like them. And then sometimes, when you find out later on, you come to find out, I thought that they didn't say that. That really didn't sound like them. Other folk, you say, so-and-so, Brother Jones did so. Yeah, that's him. That sounds just like him. you say that up front because he's like that. He got ways like that. That about sound like she's able to do that. That sounds about just like her. Because you know their ways. And he's made his acts known to Israel, but he made his ways known to the leader, to Moses. And go back to Philippians 3. So that I may know him in the way that I can know him beyond and just, on surface. I want to know him, verse 10, in the power of his resurrection. And I want to know him in the fellowship of his suffering, being made conformable unto his death. What is Paul saying here? Paul's saying, I want to know God in such a way, the writer of Philippians, Paul, I want to know God in such a way that I want to know him even in death. I know I knew him in life, but I'm going to need him when I get ready to cross over to the other side. I want to know him at the point of death. I want to know him. We know him in life. We know God in good times, you all. Do you know the Lord when things aren't going well? Do you know God in bad times? Are you better or to the point and extent that matured in your relationship with God that God just don't have to be a vending machine to you and a piggy bank, that if he don't give you all his goodies one day, that you still know him good enough and love him good enough to know, but he's still God. But he's still God. Parents teach and train their children to get to the point of comprehension and understanding that they are able to accept the parent when the parent says no. If you think your child, or you only allowing your child to love you or respect you, like you when you buying them something, you fostering some bad example and bad attitudes. They got to love you when you tell them no. And sometimes you telling them no exemplifies your love even greater than it does when you're telling them yes. Because your no is for their good, even though they don't know it and they don't like it. But they can't disrespect you because you say no. Because you got that part that I may know him in the fellowship of his suffering, in the power of his resurrection, being made conformable unto his death. I want to know him so much in this excellent chapter that I'm going to conform to how he died. I want to be conformed, being made conformable. Verse 11. So if by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead, not as though I have already, verse 12, attained. Paul said, I'm telling you what my desire is. I'm telling you what I want. I'm telling you what my better is. I'm telling you what my progress. I'm telling you where I'm aspiring to. I'm telling you what my goal is. I haven't gotten there yet, but I desire to be there. You can't get there until you desire to be there. And once you create a desire to be there, there's a pull and a tug, and there's a magnet, there's something that draws you into your better. You can't get the better if you don't desire better. All this teaching and preaching I've been doing, it took me too long, and first of all, to whet your appetite and convince you that you need to be better. Then I had to shift into the fact and the mindset that better is possible. He talking about better, that's for her over there. She going to get better. Talking about better, that's for the one that sit on that end of the pew. Talking about better, that's for folks in the pulpit. Talking about better, that's for them back there. And then at some point, the Holy Ghost job is, no, that's you. That's your better. That's your better. And Paul said that, not that I've already apprehended. I haven't obtained it. The word apprehended. I haven't gotten there. I haven't grasped it yet. I'm not already attained it. Verse 12. Either, all right, were I already perfect. Better don't mean perfection. Better means better than what I was. That's what better means. Better means better than what I was. I haven't gotten to perfect yet, but I'm better than what I was. I'm not what I'm going to be, and I'm not what I want to be, but I thank God I'm not what I used to be. Is anybody here that can say that truthfully? I'm not what I'm going to be. I'm not what I want to be. But one thing's for sure, when I look back over my shoulder, I ain't what I used to be. That's better. That's better. Paul said, I haven't attained it. I'm not perfect yet. I'm not complete yet. I'm not mature yet. I haven't reached it yet. All right. But one thing I'm doing, though, that verse 12, I'm following after. I'm following after. If I keep on following after, I'm making some strides. I'm crawling. If I keep crawling, I'm going to walk after a while. If I keep walking, I'm going to run. If I keep running, I'm going to make it. I'm step by step, little by little, day by day. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving out. I'm not turning back. I haven't gotten there yet, but one thing I'm doing, I'm on my way. Tell your neighbor, I'm on my way. I'm following after it. I'm following on. I'm pressing on. I'm following. I ain't got there yet, but I haven't finished crossed the finish line, but I'm in the race. I haven't gotten across the finish line, but I'm in the race. I'm still in the race. I'm still in the race. I'm still in the race. I may be struggling, maybe sidelined, maybe down, maybe crawling, maybe slow, maybe weak, but I'm still in the race. Not that I've already attained, I haven't been made perfect yet, but I follow after. Why you follow after? If that I may apprehend, grab a hold to, reach that for which I am already apprehended of. I'm reaching, I'm following on that I may control, grasp, lay hold on what I've already really been granted by Jesus Christ. Y'all get that? I got to keep following on until I reach the place that God already has for me. I'm not going after something of my imagination. I'm not going after something that I've drawn a line in the sand. I'm not going after something that I alone has set a boundary or desire for. I'm going after what God already has predestined for me. I'm going after that is mine. I'm going after that God has promised. The whole Old Testament story I told you all about Deuteronomy 1, about them being in the wilderness, and they were there 40 years and 11 months and 1 day, and they were there. But the issue there is that God gave them the land, promised them, ordered it, had spoken it. It was theirs by possession. They weren't going somewhere they had no business going. They were trying to obtain what was already apprehended for them, what was already pronounced, what was already there, what was already given to them. And you can't let the devil stop you from getting to your destiny of what God has set. You didn't set the destiny. You didn't. It's a God-ordained destiny. It's a God journey. It's a God walk. It's a walk of faith that I'm trying to get to what God has already ordered for my life. Why would God order something for your life and then tell you you can't get there? Why would he set the mark? Why would he establish the finish line? Why would he show you the crown? Why would he offer you the victory? Why would he say to you that you could make it and then don't allow you to make it? That's not the kind of God we serve. Better is possible. Come on, say, my better is possible. 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 It's not a pipe dream. It's not something that should elude me. It's not something that I can't obtain. It's not something that's really out of my reach. It's not something that I can't get to. My better is possible. Paul said, I'm going to keep on following through and reaching for it. Verse 14, now I got to make an extra effort. I've not obtained it or apprehended it. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm still following through. I'm still in the race. And he said, what I got to do when the going gets rough and it gets down to the nitty gritty, he says, I press. I've been following on up to this point. There comes a time in my pursuit of better where I got to up the ante. There comes a time in my pursuit of better, I got to dig in a little more solid, a little more firmly. There comes a time, Paul says, listen, I've been chugging along and trying to getting along going along to get along, but I got to now press. Come on, say it's pressing time. It's pressing time. There's a time in the race, in the journey, when you can take your time and then gradualness and just, tiptoe along and enjoy the scenery and smell the roses. And, there's another time in your journey, another phase and aspect in your journey. You're not going to have it so easy that you can just tiptoe to your destiny. I got to press. It's pressing time. There's some, you gonna know. Ain't nobody got to tell you Pastor, when do I press? You gonna know it. You gonna press when you get pressed. That's when you're gonna press. You're gonna press. You're gonna press when you feel the pressure. That's when you're gonna press. You're gonna press when things get tight. You're gonna press. When trouble arrives. You're gonna press. When the road gets hard, you're going to press. When the journey gets difficult, you're going to press when they talk about you. That's when you press. And anybody got to rag no flag and say, okay, you got 3 more to run? No. You're going to know when you're going to press. You're going to press when you feel the weight. That's when you're going to press. That's when you're going to press. You're going to press when you feel, and probably when you least want to press. There's going to be something down on the inside that's going to quicken and awaken you that it's time you got to roll up your sleeve. Now this is the devil ain't playing. You're going to have to sink or swim. You got to make it, live or die. You're going to have to make it or give up. You got to stay in the fight, stay in the race or get out of it. There's a pressing time. Paul said, I've been following along. I ain't made it yet. I haven't apprehended. I ain't perfect, But now I'm going to press. What are you pressing toward it for, Paul? The mark. What's the mark? The mark, the mark, the mark, the mark. It's a destination. The mark is a place. The mark is a location. The mark is the trophy. The mark is, I'm pressing there because it's a designated place that I got to get to. It is a realm. It's a reality. I got to move to a point. I got to get to a destination. I got to make some progress. I got to press toward the mark. I ain't fighting to just fight. I ain't walking to just walk. I ain't running to just run. You know, I ain't following along just to follow along. But I got Christ in my view. I got better in my view. I got better in my view. I got something tangible. There is a mark. There's a line of demarcation. There's a place I got to get to. There's a goal I got to achieve. There's an ambition I got to ascribe to. There's something I have to obtain. And I'm not giving up till I get there. I'm pressing toward the mark. That's what I'm pressing toward. What are you pressing for? For the prize. The mark is my destination. The prize is my motivation. The mark is my destination. The prize is my motivation. That's what keeps me going on. That's what fuels me. That's what won't let me give up. That's what won't let me throw in the towel. That's what won't let me stop by the wayside too long. That's what won't let me stay stagnant. That's what won't let me just fall out of the race. There's a prize. There's a prize. There's a real prize. There's a prize. There's a payday. There's something to be accomplished. There's something to be experienced. There's a payoff. You know, we used to see that the right man gonna pay off after a while. We thought it was in the white man. The right man gonna pay off after a while. You used to say, so I'm pressing toward the mark for the prize. All right, for the prize of what? The prize of the high calling. Everybody ain't gonna get there. Because the prize is a high calling. Everybody not going to make it because the prize is too high for them. It costs too much. The sacrifice is too great. They ain't going to get in the press. They were doing good tiptoeing. but they can't walk. The walkers are doing good walking, but when it requires a run, they didn't want to shift gears. It's a shifting that has to occur. If you're going to get better, there's got to be a shifting. In the old days of manual transmissions and when you had everything now is automatic, but when you had the stick shift cars, right? You couldn't just shift. You could just keep it down in one all the time, and then before you shift, you had to clutch. Y'all remember that? You never learned. Okay, well, those that okay. You got your foot on the gas pedal, and if you got it in low gear, it's only gonna go so fast. So you're never gonna get 100 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour down in low in one gear. When you start hearing that transmission run and you got to shift. But you can't shift. There was two pedals down there. See, there were three really. Y'all used to the brake and accelerate. There was the brake, the clutch, and the accelerator. Anybody remember that? It was the brake, the clutch, and the accelerator. There was three pedals down there. And you had to know the difference between the brake and the clutch. You fool around trying to shift. You try to shift and putting your foot on the brake, you ain't going nowhere. Even if you move the gear shift. But or it was a stick when the gear it was the stick you all and yeah and then you had to clutch it. The clutch was that third pedal down there where you had to hit that clutch. It activated or shifted the transmission and transaxle from one position to the other position. It allowed you to clutch and then you shift, and then you're gonna pick up a little bit more speed. Most people that didn't know how to drive it, they were burning transmissions out. They got their foot on the accelerator, that thing grinding. You about to burn out your transmission. Why are you burning? Because you don't know how to clutch. Spiritually speaking, you are in this spirit realm. Somebody steal you. You still trying to walk. The devil's getting you. You down. He got you right where he want. He got you trapped because you don't know how to clutch. And so you can shift. In order to shift, you got to clutch. You crying out, the devil bothering me. My kids ain't no good. This ain't going on. You got to learn how to shift. Yeah. And I press toward the mark for the prize. The prize is the high calling of Jesus Christ. High calling of God in Christ Jesus. Real quick, Pastor, well, how do I move forward? How do I get better? How do I press? in your pressing and in your moving forward, there's some things that you've really got to do in order to get out of from where you are. What Paul was saying here is, first of all, you got to develop a positive outlook on life. Positive outlook on life. A positive outlook. You ain't going to make it to the prize and to the high calling with you being negative. Negativity weighs you down. Negativity stunts your growth. Negativity will never allow you to get to better. Negativity alone, it takes too much energy to fight and combat just to go from negative to positive. If you're going to clutch from negative to positive, shift from negative to positive, I mean, you're going to get to better. You cannot have a negative. You got to develop a positive attitude about life. You got to look at life from the glass is half full rather than the glass is half empty. Y'all know the optimist looks at the glass as half full. That's half, and it says it's half full. The optimist look at the same glass and says it's half empty. Boy was playing baseball one day. He took his father out into the yard. Little boy playing baseball. He's going to be the greatest hitter that there ever was in baseball. So he took the bat and ball and glove. His father told his dad that, he took the ball and then he threw the ball up in the air. He said, I'm going to be the best baseball player hitter that there is in baseball. Little boy, and he swung, threw the ball up, swung and missed it. And he said, oh, strike one. And he said, I'm going to show you, Dad. I'm going to be the best hitter in baseball one day. Watch this. And he took the ball, threw it up, and he swung and missed it again. Dad said, strike two. He said, I'm going to show you. I'm really going to be the best hitter ever the baseball ever known. Just give me one with you. And the boy took his ball and threw it up in the air and swung and missed it. And the dad said, strike three. And looked at his dad and he said, I'm some kind of a pitcher. He struck out 3 times. He struck out. I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the best hitter there was, and he failed at it. But you know what his positive attitude said? I'm some kind of pitcher. Y'all to get that when y'all get home. So if you can strike out, don't you let the devil see you crying. You just tell him, I'm coming back again. I'm a rebounder. I'm a rebounder. I'm coming back again. I'm a fighter. I'm a winner. So if you're really going to win and move forward and get better, you got to develop a very positive outlook on life. Don't let life setbacks and life little mishaps keep you from moving forward. You got to talk positive, act positive, think positive. Everything is up, up, up. Everybody else is painting a picture of half empty, and you're saying, no, it's half full. One reason when God allowed the spies to go into Canaan, the 10 spies and the 12 spies, Joshua and Caleb, 10 came back with a negative report. And Joshua and Caleb, only 2 came back and said, I don't know what they're talking about. We're more than able to go conquer. He said, let's go get them now. That's what Joshua and Caleb said. They came back saying, it was some giants over there. And we saw the sons of Anak, and then they lied or they exaggerated, said, and the giants over there, they eat up the inhabitants of the land. They so big, the giants so big, they're eating up people. Now you know they wasn't over there eating up them. Even it was the sons of Anak was there, but they wasn't eating people. Their fear and their negativity made them think that. And then they said, we were in our own sight, what? Like grasshoppers. They didn't say that the giants saw us like that. They defined themselves in a negative light. The giants over there, we were in our own sight, in our own thinking, in our own mind. We were no bigger than grasshoppers. Joshua and Caleb said, we're more than able to conquer. He said, God has given us the land. We're more than able. And then he said, matter of fact, Joshua and Caleb said, the God we serve is able. See, the 10 spies negative report, they equated and they sized up the giant. They sized their problem with themselves. They put themselves next to the giants, and they saw the giants as being bigger than them. Joshua and Caleb didn't measure the size of the giants. They measured the size of their God. They didn't put themselves next to the giant. They put the giant next to their God. And the giant next to their God, the giant was small and their God was big. You can't size yourself up next to your problem. Your problem is bigger than you. Your problem got more money than you. Your problem is more expensive than you. Your problem is harder than you. Your problem, is ahead of you. And you trying to size your problem, yourself against your problem, rather than putting your God next to your problem. And saying, I know we can do this. They went in and they possessed the land. So if you're going to move forward, you're going to be better. Develop a positive outlook on life. Then number 2, you got to prioritize your time and recognize the value of your time. This is just practical tips. If you're going to be better, and if you're going to move to better, and you're going to possess the land, you're going to press towards the mark, you're going to have to do something with this thing called TIME, time. You're going to have to recognize and use time that God has given you. You got to recognize the value of time. What's the value you place? How valuable is 1 year? What is 1 year, 365 days? What is 1 year times worth or valued at? If you ask a student that flunked a grade 1 year and they had to repeat it, or if you ask somebody that had to wait a whole year to take another test, 1 year for them is very valuable. It's a long time. You can't do it again for 1 year, something for 1 year. That's a long time. That's a lot of value. What is the value of 1 month? You ask a mother that's giving birth to a premature baby by a month or two and see how they value 1 month of time. That 1 month is very, 30 days or so is very, very valuable. What's the value of 1 week? Ask persons that have weekly deadlines on their job. A person have to meet a deadline. They got to close the books in 1 week. Got to hire new staff. Got to meet some sales quota. Have to do something in 1 week. Or you ask a pastor, a preacher that has to prepare a sermon every week. Or a person that's in journalism or in the news business that have a deadline, editorial, weekly newspaper, weekly magazine, or whatever. Some of y'all, pastor, give y'all assignment. Y'all bring a message once a year, once every 8 months, once every 9, and it drains you. You can't hardly do nothing else for another 3 months. You try to have it do 4 or 5 of those a week. And prepare and dispense the word of the Lord. People I was scared. I was nervous. I lost half my thoughts. I had butterflies. You're going to have butterflies, moths, and cantaloupes. I meant caterpillars. I said caterpillars. What's the value of 1 hour to a person? You ask a person who's lying terminally ill, and who want, someone who goes to see a loved one, or someone who's waiting on a diagnosis from a doctor, or someone that's in a crisis or the tight for, the value of 1 hour, the value of 1 minute. Somebody that misses a plane, or somebody that misses a very important engagement, or you try to get to a store or to a business and it just closed, to the bank, before you go on vacation, the day before, you need the money and it closed 1 minute before you get there. What's the value of that 1 minute? Very valuable. What's the value of 1 sec? Time is important. You got to make time a priority and recognize, Olympic medalists and swimmers and persons who engage in various, various activities. A loved one trying to say goodbye for the last time. Just give me 1 more second, 1 more moment, 1 more time. That is very valuable. So if you want to move forward, you got to again, develop a positive outlook on life. Secondly, you got to recognize and use the value of time. Thirdly, if you're going to move forward, I'm rushing on, is that you cannot be a bondage of your past. You got to forget about the past if you're going to move forward. Remember what Paul said in Philippians? I'm forgetting about those things right behind me. Forgetting about those things. I'm pressing. Before I can press, I got to forget. You can't press while you're thinking about it, while you're reflecting, while you remember. Lot's wife was turned to a pillar of salt when she looked back. She dissolved. She just went away. She just came into a pile of dust, of salt, because look, she looked back. She looked back. The Canaan land, the future promised land, was in front of her, and she looked back. And God say, your looking back is indicative of your mind being back there. The reason she looked back, because her mind was already there. She looked back because she left her mind and her heart there. Israel couldn't get beyond the desert. They came out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. 4 days to get out of Egypt, 40 years to get Egypt out of them. Yeah, he had to get Egypt out of them. And he let die everybody 21 years old and older. Those who knew about Egypt, who lived Egypt, who was stuck in Egypt, who had experienced Egypt. Those who, he let 21 years old. They were in the wilderness, y'all, for 40 years. Those 20 years or 21 years and younger was allowed to go on. The 21-year-olds, y'all, and younger never experienced Egypt. Y'all get that? They're in the wilderness for 40 years, right? God said everybody 21 years old and over is dying off. Those 21 years old and under never experienced Egypt. All they knew was the desert. They represented new growth, new opportunity, new youth. They didn't know nothing about the stories of Pharaoh other than what was told them. But everybody 21 years and older, actually 40 and older, they were infected by the negativity of what did happen. Because they experienced it firsthand. God said, I can't deal with you. I can't move you forward, and you got all this backward baggage. You got to get rid of that baggage and get rid of that so I can move you forward. So you got to forget about your past and forget about, don't be a victim, of your past. You don't be caught and trapped. I told you the other day, last Sunday, maybe it was last week, that, you don't owe your past an apology as much as you owe your future a chance. Third, the last thing, fourth, that was third. The fourth thing in terms of moving forward and getting better and pressing on, you got to just press toward your goal. You got to press toward your goal. You got to not only know press toward your goal and establish priorities. You got to set priorities if you're going to move forward. Priority. The word priority means that you got to make a decision between two equally good choices. Prioritizing don't mean good and bad. Prioritizing means I got two good choices, and one's going to have to outweigh the other. That's what to set priority means. It doesn't always, priority is not as easy as, okay, I don't want to do this, but I want to do this. So my priority, I'm going to do what I want to do. No, that's easy. That ain't priority. Priority is when you got two equally good things or two equally good choices, and one of the other going to have to take precedent, and it takes precedent based on what your goal and what your objective and what you want to get out of it. You got to make a decision about two mutually good things. There was an experiment done about, and I was going to do it and I didn't prepare. A teacher of time management professor came into a room and was demonstrating to business professionals about how to prioritize their time, how to spend their time and not waste time. And he took a big jar, and he had some rocks and boulders and things in it, and he put them in the jar. And he asked the class the question. He said, "Is this jar full?" And they say, "Yes." They said, "Yes." And he took some gravel and he poured some gravel on top of the big rocks. So the jar received the gravel. And he held it up and asked them and said, "Is this jar full?" They said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to show you that it's not." And he took some sand, fine sand, and poured it on top of the gravel in the jar. And the jar was compacted and it received the fine sand. It had the big rocks, the gravel, and the sand. And he lifted up, he said, "Is the jar full now?" They said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going to show you that it's not." And he took some water and poured water on top of the sand, on top of the gravel, on top of the big rocks. And water filled up that jar to the top, all right? And he held it up. He said, "Is this jar full?" And they said, "Now it is, yes." And they said, so he asked them, "What's the moral of this story? What do you get out of this?" And he said, what they got out of this, what they got out of it was that you can always get something more in the jar. He said, "No, that's not the point of the lesson." He said, "The point of the lesson is that if you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in. If you fill it with sand, gravel, or water, you'll never get the big rocks in." And the big rocks represent what's priority in your life. The big rocks represent what's important. And if you look at how you spend your time and what you're doing, the reason why you don't get the better, you fool around with water and sand and gravel. And your big rocks would never fit when you filled up the jar with water, sand, and gravel. The Bible says it's the small foxes that destroys the vine. You better focus on the big rocks. Your priority, who cares if you don't know how to win at PlayStation and don't spend 4 hours before the TV playing some game, makeshift game that you ain't even involved in. Who cares if you miss a sports game? Who cares if you miss this, that, and the other, or the drama? Who cares if you don't see your favorite show tonight? But if you read a book, who cares if you don't make the sale? You get there too late for the sale, but you're able to spend some time in prayer. Who cares? I mean, I'm talking about the big rocks versus the small rocks. Who cares if you don't do this, that, and ain't on social media 5 hours a day? You miss the latest tweet, or you don't read everybody's post on Facebook. Who cares if you miss, seeing the video, seeing the laughable, comical stuff that, what's that guy does, that comedian, that Christian comedian that changes wigs and everything that happens. He put, what's his name? Not Ricky Smiley. Carlton, that's what I'm talking about. Y'all know, this is it's different generations. Y'all know about Carlton. Y'all think we talking about the Carlton on that, what's that show? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That ain't the Carlton. There's a social media Carlton that he does a parody with everything that almost funny happens in the church or happens in life in the world. He shoots a video, a live stream, a Facebook live video of it. And all of those who on social media seen it and know it. But we walk around, people are walking, looking at their phone all the time, crossing the street with their phone, looking at Facebook. You about to get hit by a car, you about to lose your life, and you got some earplugs in your head, in your ear, and you're looking at your phone, and you ain't seeing nothing, cause no peripheral vision, can't hear the horn blowing, don't know that there's a siren coming down the street, and and you stuck on Instagram. We got to get the big rocks in place. You got to get your big rocks in. When you get your big rocks in place, everything else, the gravel will fall. It'll get in there. The sand, it'll get in there. The water, it'll get in there. But you can't deal with the little things and smaller things and forget about the big rocks, because then you wake up and end up one day and say, what happened with my time? I thought I was going to do something today, but I slept too long. I was going to do something today, but I watched it. I thought I was going to do something today, but I just didn't feel. I was tired. I thought I was going to do something, and then all your to-do list, it never gets done, and it gets waited for tomorrow, and then you double and triple up. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Amen. So let's move forward, y'all. Let's do better. Again, I want to thank you all for this weekend service and work. And I want us, CGC, let's not lose the momentum. Let's build on what we accomplished. This weekend was big rocks. Let's add some gravel and some sand and some water. There's still room and capacity for growth. And like I said to First Lady Ways, next year, what this was so successful, next year we can move it out of the church building. Amen. If we continue on, if we do continue what we do, if we and so that's, and next year's our 30th year too. I want to applaud CGC, everybody that was here on Saturday in particular. First of all, the young people, because we were filled to capacity. And people kept coming in, and we only had so many seats. The young people were asked to go into the other room, the classrooms. Then they went in without grumbling and complaining. And I want to applaud our young people that did that. Amen. I want to applaud the young people that willingly, voluntarily. Then, because they kept coming in, I asked the men to give up their seat. And men ought to know, and men don't have a problem giving up their seat when a woman is standing, or when there's women looking for seats. Men ought not be seated. I know that's old-fashioned, but it's still right. It's chivalry, and chivalry is still alive. Chevrolets are still being made. I mean, chivalry. I meant chivalry.